Welcome to the Roxy Rumble. Online lessons versus in-person lessons. Which one's the best for you? Let's get into it. Welcome to Roxy Music. Thank you for joining us today. We are a small independent music store in LaPorte, Indiana. If you are in the area, we'd love to say hi to you. I am Ken Grace, the owner and the host of today's show. If you would do us a favor and just click like and share this video, hopefully it will be helpful to you. Let's get into it today. Online lessons versus in-person lessons. It's a rumble. It's a battle. Let me tell you my story. I started as a kid learning by watching my parents. They would throw me into situations. I learned bass guitar very young. They'd throw me up on stage in a Southern gospel band. That's what I would play as a family sing along, and that's what we would do. And I remember going into a recording studio and just loving that environment. But I never actually formally learned how to play. I'd only play like what my dad told me to play. That's what I would play. And then later on in high school, I started getting into some different things. My forte, my specialty is in church worship music. I dug into that and learned that. But I still never really had full formal lessons. I just kind of noodled on the piano, played on the piano, did a whole bunch of oompas. I learned how to do that pretty good. Classic Southern gospel oompa sound. And then when I went away to college, I went to Minnesota. I started in a different degree, and I wasn't really feeling it. And I thought I would do this stupid thing, and I would go for a music major out of nowhere. No training. I didn't do band in high school, so I didn't have really any formal training. I just learned a lot by ear, a lot by listening. I missed out on a whole lot of like classic rock stuff, but I got into formal lessons with a professor that was insane on the piano, and had to work very, very hard to catch up. And a lot of 6 and 8 hour days sitting in a practice room, just learning scales, learning arpeggios, learning chords. And I just really fell in love with that process. Fell in love with the process of learning music theory. Actually graduated with my music degree in 3.5 years. That was, because I started pretty late in the process, so I had to work very, very hard at it. I still feel like I'm a little bit behind because I only did 3.5 years. If I could go back and do it again, probably wouldn't change anything, but I would say I would go longer so I could have that lesson time with my professor because I loved that time. Like I loved him like saying, no, you can't do it. Man. God, I forgot to introduce our panel. I do want to introduce my panel. This is our first video, so be merciful on us, all right? Click like and share anyways, okay? So anyways, I am joined today by, and I'm going to answer that question, Nate. So I'm joined today by the master, Nate Miller. He's one of our teachers here at Roxy Music. He teaches everything. He's fantastic. Plays a lot of live music, plays out all the time. And then this is my son, Tyler. He's another teacher here. He's a fantastic guitar player, has his degree in guitar performance, is awesome. Also one of our teachers, helps me run the store. And then we had this moment last night where this is Woody Lawson. He is one of Nate's students right here. He's only been taking lessons for 3 months, or has been trying to learn how to play bass for 3 months. And we were talking with him last night when we were trying to wrestle through this and thought, why don't you come on the show and tell your experience? All right. So that was, so now that's the commercial break. Let's get back into it. All right. So yes, I did have opportunity. My parents did stick me in some piano lessons as a kid. I just didn't do well with that as a kid. I wasn't very good at school, so that studying and that book work, I would have rather been outside playing, and so it didn't really click until college for me. So,
and then you had I'm picking this. I want to do this in my life. So there was that fire underneath you. I better go to practice or whatever if I want to take this seriously.
Yeah, it really was. I don't remember why I made that change. I don't remember what said, hey, I love music, except music has always been a part of my life. I do a lot of different. I don't do Southern gospel anymore. That's not the thing. I don't play oompa anymore, except when I'm joking around. But it is a huge part of my heritage and a huge part of my growing up, and so that I think, man, I really want to make a go with this, and I've loved that. So, so that's me. I did have a chance as a kid. I didn't really connect. For me as a kid, it connected huge later on in my adult life. So. And then after college, that's when I really got an education because I was able to have some really stellar professionals play behind me in my first job. And I've been able to do this full time for a long time now, 30 years. I had part of Prince's band was able to come and sit in on one of my worship teams. And that was like a college education by itself. It was just like, and they were just some of the studio musicians that sat in out at Paisley Studios. That was just an incredible lesson education. That was probably more college education than anything in the 2 rehearsals that they gave me.
Oh, no kidding.
Because they told me how to direct and how to play and what I was doing wrong. And they were very kind, and I really didn't deserve to have them playing behind me. It was just like the drummer. I'll never forget the drummer just telling me, "Hey, when you want this is what you need to say to get this out of us." Mm-hmm. And it was just a fantastic directing moment for me. So, So tell me, Nate, your experience and where you're at.
I started playing music, honestly, because my mom was going back to school to learn how to be a teacher. And she wanted to be a teacher, and she realized that she was going to have to do these general music classes, and she had never studied music her entire life. So she was like, "Nate, I'm signing you up for piano lessons." I had family members that already took piano lessons, and their piano teacher was actually Arlo, who's another teacher here at Roxy.
Oh, one of our he's one of our busiest teachers here. Yeah, that's cool.
And so my first thing was piano lessons with Arlo when I was 8 years old, and it was so that I could help my mom learn all the note names on the piano and how to read music for her general music class at PNC or whatever. Well, it's cool. PNW now. Yeah. Or whatever. And then I fell in love. I did piano lessons for a couple of years, and then by then all my older family members were getting into middle school and they were doing band. So I wanted to be in band. I wanted to be like the people that I looked up to. So I started playing trumpet in 6th grade. And then by the end of high school, I knew I wanted to be a band director. I thought for sure I was going to be a band director. And I studied at Ball State and found out right away that I didn't want to have to go to the classes and learn how to play bassoon and oboe and stuff like that. I didn't want to do that. So I switched to a trumpet performance major. Okay. And then in school is when I started playing with rock and roll bands. Always played guitar along the way.
At Ball State?
Yeah, okay. At Ball State in school. We started a band, and then by the time we were done with school, everybody's heart was in the band thing. So then we were trying to figure out how to go on the road and be rock stars.
Nice.
Yeah. And now we just play.
Anybody else trying to figure out what to do with these? I don't know what to do with my hands.
Do I lean?
I'm just putting them wherever I can, man. I got the little grip right here, All right. I feel powerful.
I feel like they shouldn't have given me a twisty stool.
Tyler, tell me your experience, like your upbringing.
Yeah, well, I started. I feel like all the pictures of me with a kid was carrying around my little acoustic and microphone. Playing on stage while you're leading worship.
They were.
Then I got into middle school, and I was homeschooled until 8th grade. And then 8th grade, and we joined jazz band, and I had to figure out how to play weird 7 chords that I'd never played before. And so I'm like learning these chords, and I'm like, oh, I had no idea what I was doing. Did that 8th grade, then did it freshman year. And then in that time, I joined our youth group team and our worship team. And then I got okay. I figured out how to play riffs that I was told to play, and then I played the chords. And then got into high school senior. I took lessons here with Ron for a year, trying to get into Ball State, and then I got denied from Ball State.
Wait, what did your professor say? That's a very not classical guitar technique you have there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to do classical, and that's most programs is classical or jazz.
Yeah, that's
And-
the intimidating part for a lot of guitar players going into school, finding that right program to fit into.
Yeah. So I ended up going to where you went to school at North Central. Did that for 4 years. And my freshman year, I realized I knew nothing. So I ended up practicing 3-4 hours a day the whole time. And then I had to figure out, okay, I've got to play. I started teaching in there. And then after that, started teaching back here. And then did that until we figured out, we're Roxy's. We're buying Roxy's. We might as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Keep on playing.
And this is Woody. Woody, you just started learning 3 months ago. So tell me a little bit about your musical journey to this point.
Okay, so I started off with poetry, which is strange. My father was doing poetry for like a church, and he did like this poem recital or whatever, and then I fell in love with just like the art of words. And then I started doing poetry myself, and then eventually I was just like, this sucks, man. I want to rap. So I started rapping, and then I got tired of trying to find beats on YouTube, and then I invested in a MacBook, and I started fooling around in GarageBand, and then I learned how to chop beats, and then I got into guitar, and I got into these different instruments and was just using these instruments to basically, I'm like, where's the chords at? This is what I want. And then I just started just using instruments specifically to sample my own stuff so I wouldn't get in trouble. And eventually I got sick of it one day, and I really wanted to learn properly, but I didn't know what to learn. And one of my friends was like, all the stuff that you're doing on these beats, you're like tuning it to such a low octave. Like, why are you always on the low end? What's wrong with you? I was just like, it's like stuff on the low end. And then eventually I was like, my mom gifted me this bass because it was the only instrument I didn't have. And I was like, this is beautiful.
I've been missing this.
I need to learn this. I need to obsess over this.
Where have you been all my life?
Yo, but seriously, I was like, I would have done this first. I wouldn't have been rapping. I would have did this first, and then I would have got to it. But, it was just a beautiful journey. And in school, growing up, I was always into music. Like, I tried trumpet for a while, but I joined band late, so no one was teaching me. So I had, like, a book. I'm like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. It was
That's
awesome.
a hard undertaking there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, all my life, I kind of had to just teach myself. And this year, one of my friends, I was making this bass line for one of these songs I'm working on. And then he was like, it sounds nice. It sounds really nice, but you're playing it wrong. I'm like, how am I playing it wrong? What are you talking? He's like, it sounds, what do you mean? And he was like, you're not anchoring your thumb. Your thumb's floating. It was like, did you start off on guitar? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's why. And I was like, nah, I'm not about to have another bassist out here see me on bass and then see that I'm just being silly. So I tried some online courses, and I was like, I didn't really like it that much. And then I was like, let me just go and learn in person. And that's kind of how I came across you guys. So,
All right, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Well, we're awesome you're here today. So we get into this. Let's first of all define, because we really are going to battle it out. There's so many ways to learn. We all have a different way that we learn, and we all have a different way that we adapt. But really, is there a better way? Is there online or in person? Like, we teach in-person lessons here, but I would say we've probably all learned online
Absolutely.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I learned how to play guitar because I lost my guitar player, and I had to figure out, okay, how do I do this? And so I watched a lot of YouTube videos to learn the riffs, to figure that out. So let's define, what is in-person lessons? Like, what would you say an in-person lesson is?
I feel like for this conversation is like one-on-one or one to like a group of people, and that can take the medium of like Skype or Zoom, but it's still like
There's
direct.
It's live.
Yeah.
It's live.
Yeah.
There's immediate feedback.
I like that word, immediate feedback. You got immediate response.
They can say, "Oh no, I meant this."
Yeah.
Then you can jump right in and say, "I can show Woody in my lesson." Oh no, fourth fret.
Okay.
Whereas if
anchor that thumb, man, anchor that thumb. Yeah. So then, all right. So immediate feedback in person. So what would you say, like online? Like is it just YouTube videos, or are there other things that we can?
I've taken some courses that have like really cool content. I've paid for them, and there's a lot of really good stuff in them. And I've
So a course that somebody pre-recorded that you would
Yeah, it could be access to videos
Yeah.
or something. You pay a flat rate, or you get access for a certain amount of time. I think Fender has that the Fender Play program that's similar to that, where you pay for 3 months of access to all their database of videos.
Yeah.
But that's where you get it, is videos. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's get into it, and we're going to try to help you guys out. What is the best for you? Is there a clear winner in online lessons or in-person lessons? And so we obviously set up the boxing ring, so we're going to go round one. Let's talk about accessibility. Like accessibility, I think that one of the things when learning is having the ability to learn accessibility. So the definition of accessibility that we have written down here is the ease to which you can access the information you're trying to learn. So how easy can you get the information? All right, so talk about that online accessibility. Like,
Well, obviously, with online, it's almost too much. You almost have access to too much, and what you have to. It's up to you as the student sitting there to pick through it and decipher through it.
Yes.
And that can be really overwhelming or super awesome, depending on where you're at, kind of on your own journey. Too.
okay, and so there's a lot of information online that you can grab.
And you have access to it all.
Yeah, and you have access to everything all the time. Okay, and
When I first started looking for videos on bass, and I'm just seeing the different techniques that people are using, and I'm just like, which one am I doing? So a little
bit overwhelming. All right, so in-person lessons though, accessibility. I mean, I feel like that might be a little bit more restricted, right? You got to find
very much so. I mean, you run into all of life's problems there. You know, you got to get to a place. You have to have the free time yourself. The teachers have to have availability.
And you don't know what they know.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest bright side to being in person is that you have a sense of direction. You know, when you're online and you're looking for all these different stuff, you're not sure what to grab, and you're just grabbing all this access information. But in person, you have a checkpoint, you have a waypoint that you can, you know.
Yeah. All right. You can kind of help decipher a little bit.
That all goes into it.
So originally we wrote down that maybe accessibility, the winner might be online lessons, but now listening to you just with the overwhelmingness, I might say that it might not actually be the winner.
I think it depends where you are.
Yeah, where you go.
The more I've been thinking about this, you know, for a couple weeks now, and it's so. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And
it might be a point too. Like for me and you, Nate, like us learning something online, there's probably more information than a random guitar teacher might be able to teach us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Or I know specifically I might be trying to learn one specific thing in a song.
okay.
I can watch a lot faster 5 or 6 videos and see a couple different people's ideas and find out which I like. But I have the experience of learning hundreds of other songs before.
You already have a foundation there to be able to.
I know specifically what I'm looking for. So that's great for me. That's super accessible. Yeah. But when you're just starting out and you're trying to learn how to play the song, you see 10 different guys play it, and nobody's telling you this is right or this is wrong.
Yeah.
You get.
Or they're all telling you this is right and this is wrong.
I'm like,
this is the best way. This is the way. Actually, don't flag me for that. You know, so is there a clear winner in this? I don't know. I mean, there's access. You have access to learning, like whether it's in person. You know, if you live in our area, we got a great music program here that you can get lessons from all the time with a ton of teachers and a ton of availability there. But if you live somewhere else, you might not have access to that.
Yeah,
you know, and so online
location.
Yeah. So I don't know. Round one, I originally was thinking maybe online would win a little bit.
I think for
accessibility.
access, I would give it to online.
Okay.
I would
absolutely.
too. I would too.
Absolutely, I agree.
Just by the pure definition of it. You know?
Okay.
We can't start out by making the first one a tie.
All right, we totally forgot our bell. We need a bell so we can ding it, right?
Yeah.
So we go ding, ding. Oh, that's off of Rocky, actually, right? Rocky 2 or 3?
Oh, yeah.
3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. With Apollo Creed, right? They go ding, ding. Okay, so the round 2, though, how about cost? cost. Like there is a cost to learning. Like I think I believe personally there's a cost. Like what you want to do, you're always going to pay a price.
Yes.
You're always going to pay a price. So no matter what, but there is a cost to learning, and whether it's an online course or if you're buying an online course or if you're buying a lesson pack from us or something like that, there's definitely a cost there. I feel like though, there's not really an excuse to not learn there because you could go to YouTube and you could learn pretty much anything you want to learn, for free.
It's the only cost is your time there. That's
you could go anywhere for free, and there's somebody. I promise you, there's somebody out there that has figured out the song you're trying to learn.
Absolutely.
And
there's tabs or sheet music for most songs for free.
And they put a killer tutorial together on how to learn it, and they show the frets and they show the fingering, and how to pick it, and it's which brings up an interesting point though. I was watching another YouTube video, and they were talking about the way we learn is different now because you have so much access to like free stuff on YouTube. Like when we were younger, maybe not yourself, but maybe you're getting there. But when we were younger, we listened to everything and had to learn from listening because we didn't have YouTube. And a lot of people now, they're just watching it and trying to, and so their method of learning has changed a little bit. But I think for the price, there is a price for anything great you want to do. So, and I think the value of what, you just got to be willing to pay the price.
That's right.
You got to be willing to pay the price. And if it's money or if it's time, you're paying something.
Yeah.
You're paying something. So getting there. So I would say online though, it's definitely cheaper than in person.
Agreed.
Right? I got to say, yeah, it's definitely, but part of that though, I think that there's a commitment when you put money on the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you put money on the table and you hand
online
it over,
wins for cheap. Is cheap better?
Oh, that's the
real question.
That's a whole different discussion.
Yes.
We can talk an hour on that.
And so it goes right back to to each their own. You know what I mean? It's the opportunity cost for you. That money worth the time? Are you going to actually do it? Don't waste your own time. You know what I mean? Be honest with yourself if you're like going to take that undertaking. Yeah. Like Woody's put in a lot of work. I know. He said, I got to figure out how to do this. And
awesome. He has a passion for it, too, because of something else that he's wanting to do.
Yeah.
Because of the music that he's producing, and he wants to produce that better.
Yeah.
So having a foundation, I think that's awesome. I think that's a big deal is doing something you love.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's it. You're willing to pay the price for something you love.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You're willing.
Yeah.
I mean, how much money do we waste on things that, that to someone else might look like a waste, but
I can't. People
brings
wonder
a lot of
constantly
joy.
why I buy the things that I do.
So is it worth it to pay for in person? Absolutely. Is it? But online, I think I've got to give. I got to give the winner online for this one. For cheapness, for cost effectiveness. Yeah. I think online has to. Round three though. Round three. We start to get a little bit more focused here, though, and that is in the area. So when you're talking about online versus in person, round three, we're going to talk about the idea of accountability.
Oh boy, I like this one.
Accountability in learning, right? So we just talked about everything. If it's worth doing, it's worth paying the price for.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
Right. If it's worth your time, it's worth paying for, and therefore it's also worth somebody holding you accountable to doing that. Now, not everybody's going to be a professional musician.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some people who just like are self-starters. Like if you can just commit to it daily and do it.
Yeah, I am not that person. I am not a disciplined person. I think that's one of the reasons why I loved working with Dr. Johnson, because he held my feet to the fire. He was awesome, and he would bring it every time, and he would tell me, Ken, you kind of sucked this week. You definitely, you try to fake your way through a practice. And,
no way.
And there was no way. He can tell.
Yeah.
He can tell you're faking your way. You didn't practice this week.
My trumpet professor in college, he was like, I don't know, but you're doing it wrong. Hey, Mac, could you tell me? I don't know. You sound like a bag of puppies getting hit with a hammer. That's really colorful, but could you tell me what to do with my tongue? I don't know.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, they motivate you.
yeah.
I tell you what, I looked up to that guy, and I wanted to hold myself accountable for him.
Yeah.
You know, like 'cause I went there to study with him, and I looked up to him.
I hated it in the moment. I felt embarrassed when I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And I've never been
Yeah.
more mad at somebody that I looked up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because he's just telling me like it is.
I mean, I look back now at my near 50-year-old self, and I say, man, I was an idiot as a kid. I should have, like, I had a chance with one of the greatest piano players I've ever heard to, like, really do it, and the amount of time that and I practiced hard, so don't get me wrong, I practiced very hard, but I could have really, like, what did I leave on the table? That's the question. Like, did I leave something on the table with a guy that was worth his weight in gold as a professor, as a teacher, you know? And so accountability, I think, is a big deal.
I feel like, you know, I'm like an obsessive person, okay? So I'm either obsessed or I'm not. So I need to be all in or not at all. So
I like that.
I need to practice every single day and not fall off. And I feel like the only way for me to really do that, because you can go online, you could do this stuff, but it's really hard to measure yourself when you're by yourself. And that's the biggest reason why I wanted to teach her. So when Nate is teaching me something and he's like, okay, we're going to learn an A chord or we're going to do this, I'm going to master it because I know by next week where I was struggling to find where the fret was, I'm playing the scale or doing whatever, like, you know, flawlessly. Then you'd be like, okay, yeah, you did good. And I'm like, all right, yeah, what's the next thing? And then that thing, it just, you know, doing that helps me, you know, hold myself accountable by making sure I do what my teacher is, you know, seeking of me.
Yeah.
So
That kind of segues well.
Perfectly into round 4, actually.
Yeah.
That actually just said, yeah. So I think round 3, accountability definitely goes to in-person lessons. Definitely goes there. And I'm going to say that round 4 is definitely going to go to in-person lessons.
Yeah, I
because
agree.
of that right there. And we're going to call it feedback.
yeah.
That idea that you have somebody sitting there looking at what you're doing and helping you do it better.
Yeah.
You know, can you do it a different way? You know, and you know, I think sometimes one of the things I believe, I don't think that we should despise small beginnings, right? I think that when you're learning foundation stuff, that's when you really need to put in the time. Like, you need to put like don't be embarrassed by. Everybody's got to start somewhere. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to start. So don't despise small beginnings. Put in the time and get that technique and learn how to anchor that thumb, you know, and learn how to, you know, is there a better way? But you get that feedback that happens between a teacher and a student where they give you real time, like, hey,
Small beginnings are exciting and just should be. I remember I saw this meme today, actually, where it said the 2 different versions of I have so much to learn. And then there's the other version of I have so much to learn.
Oh,
That's the attitude you should have.
yeah.
Well, I say that's what my favorite Victor Wooten quote is. Boy, do I have a lot to learn.
Oh man, yeah. And anytime you think you're getting good, just go listen to Victor Wooten.
I do that regularly.
Boy, I have a lot to learn.
There's an interview of Joe Satriani out there. He's like, yeah, I was in high school and I started playing guitar and I sucked.
Hey, sometimes that's the motivation you need, though.
I love it. I think that feedback is hugely important. Is that the right way? That's not the right way to say it, but that's going to be my term. It's massively important.
Massively.
And like how it's easier to get feedback in a live person is because you can get specific feedback. Like everybody's hand sizes are different, and like it does on like a guitar.
It matters. Yeah.
It shifts
does.
differently, and you can get like specific feedback on. Well, you can do this.
You should
with
try
your
this
finger.
because your finger's 8 million miles long, and you're lucky. You know,
Which
tiny.
I got long fingers.
online course like. This is typical best practice, but you can't get super specific.
There's a way you should do it, but your hands may not work for it, and somebody can help you solve the problem that you have in that moment.
What can we try? It's almost like you're workshopping solutions at that point.
Because part of the thing about learning, anything worth learning, you're constantly going to butt up against a challenge that you're going to have to overcome. You're constantly going to hit a ceiling of your current ability. And sometimes you need somebody to help you just get on top of the ceiling so it becomes your floor, and then you go from there. And one of the things I would add also is it's okay I think as teachers, we need to be okay with the fact that, hey, listen, I can help Woody get to a certain point, but when he comes to my limit, I become his ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, and he wants to go further. I need to find somebody that can help Woody get further in that process. And that's where the community really comes into play, where it's like when we become a little less self-absorbed and more about helping somebody become awesome. Like for me, what I say, I think the other day I was saying, I feel like our purpose here at Roxy is to help people sound better, play better, and be better.
Be better, yeah.
You know, and so that's what our goal is to help achieve that in whatever that is. And the thing is that we're all at different levels, and if we can stop comparing ourselves to somebody else, you know, and as teachers stop comparing, we're always going to be. There's always somebody out there that's better than you, right? I mean, there always is. And so if you just look at honestly where you're at, and you have somebody giving you feedback, you can always be better than you are today.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
You can always be better tomorrow just by putting in a little bit of work. A little bit of work goes a long way. In fact, I would say this, that if you have 10 minutes a day to practice, and you can practice every day for 10 minutes, do that, as opposed to waiting for Friday and you got 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that consistency over time starts to build, and it starts to improve, and it starts to get better. And what was hard today becomes your warm up tomorrow. You know, and that is that thing that you're wrestling through. So is there a clear winner? I mean, I'm always gonna say, get in-person lessons if you can.
Me too.
If you have a great teacher, get in-person. It's worth its weight in gold if you can get a great teacher or a great professor, somebody that can give you that feedback, somebody that can hold you accountable, somebody that can put joy of playing music in you. Yeah. I think that's a big deal. Is just you love to play. What's the best music to learn? To me, it's the one that makes you come back and want to play tomorrow.
Yes.
You know, the music that comes back. And we can talk music styles all day, because what makes me tick might not make you tick. You know what I mean? But it's the music. It's a beautiful thing. We were just talking the other day. What is music? You know, and it's which is a discussion for another time. But it's the thing that, you know. So is there a clear winner? Here's what I say. I say yes. In-person lessons are to me is better than online lessons. Now I would add this: you have no excuse to not learn.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point.
You have no excuse to not learn, because if you can't afford in-person lessons, or you're not
you don't have
the time for in-person lessons, or you don't have the location for in-person lessons, you can access it all over the place on this beautiful thing called the interwebs. You know, you can get there with a click and start practicing 10 minutes a day. And get there. And so really there's no excuse to not learn. Yeah. You know, there's no excuse to not get better. And you can get better with any format that works for you. So for me, in-person works. But for you, it might not work. I would say, man, get online. And if you got friends, or ask questions. You go to shows, you go to concerts, and somebody's like, man, I saw that thing.
Yeah.
I promise you, when somebody comes up to me, how did you do that?
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you every time. I'll stop and tell you every time how I did
Come to all my shows and ask me how I played. All the notes.
Yeah.
Promise. I will talk to you about it.
We like talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all in our own universes.
So that wraps it. That wraps it up for today. Thanks for hanging in there. We were hoping maybe this would take 5 minutes, but it's been an awesome long conversation we've had fun with. Real quick, Tyler, what do you got new going on? That you playing anywhere right now? You doing something?
I'm doing the high school play right now.
Playing guitar for the high
Little
school
Shop
play?
of Horrors, right?
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, reading stuff, which is not where my training's been only, so I have to do a lot more practice.
Stretch your
than I'm
legs,
used
man.
to.
He's stretching out. He's working.
Stretch
Even somebody who's as great as Tyler is having to learn something now, and get back into getting things worked out. Nate, what do you got going on?
I'm always playing. Working on new music with a band called Skirt.
Okay.
And then my band Midwest Hype. We got some shows coming up this summer. You can always look that stuff up online. And then working hard at Roxy, man.
Hey, always here. I love that. And Woody, you got anything going on?
I got a few things going on, actually. This is actually the cover to one of my singles called B.I.M.B. It's a hip-hop track, and it's going to be re-released this summer. And I also have a couple of shows coming out that's in LaPorte County. We got Zombie Fest, and then we got Oktoberfest all in September. So we got September 1st and September 18th.
I'll see you at Oktoberfest, man.
right.
I'll be there.
I will be there.
Awesome. And I spend all my time, I do a lot of worship leading. That's what I do on the side. And so I'm always in church directing worship and leading music programs and leading musicians and teaching. And so love it. So come back, check us out next time. Thanks for joining us today.